The heavy, rattling bass of Miami hip-hop is a physical entity. It doesn't just enter your ears. It vibrates the fluid in your spine, rattles the fillings in your molars, and violently disrupts the suffocating, pesticide-scented quiet of a suburban afternoon. This is my daily ritual. I ease my battered SUV down the narrow strip of crushed gravel that serves as our private neighborhood road, drop the windows, and crank the volume dial until the dashboard plastic groans. Today's selection is a back-to-back masterpiece of auditory hostility. Ministry's Jesus Built My Hot Rod, followed by the unapologetic, profane glory of Two Live Crew. I let the chaotic industrial metal and the booming, unsanitized lyrics bleed out over the manicured lawns. I throw the vehicle into park, step out into the humid air, and take my sweet, agonizing time retrieving the mail. I check every envelope. I read the junk mail flyers. And all the while, I watch the Venetian blinds of the pristine colonial house directly across the street. They twitch, just a fraction of an inch, but it's enough. I smile, turn up the bass, and wave at the window. This isn't just about noise. It is a calculated, deeply personal war of attrition. The woman hiding behind those blinds is Vernita. To the casual observer, she is merely a woman in her late 60s who aggressively maintains her hydrangeas and wears pastel cardigans even in the dead of summer. To the residents of our tiny, secluded cul-de-sac, she is a toxic, malignant force. A woman who weaponizes her boredom and masks her cruelty under the guise of neighborhood preservation. I didn't always play loud music at the mailboxes. I used to be the quiet neighbor. But that was before I understood the sheer collateral damage one miserable person could inflict on the people I care about. Just 2 doors down from my house lives Ondine. If you ever need a masterclass in resilience, you look at Ondine. She's the kind of woman who pairs a vintage leather motorcycle jacket with a floral sundress and laughs with her whole chest. We became inseparable 3 years ago, bound together by the worst kind of shared geography, the linoleum floors of the oncology ward. Both of our husbands were diagnosed within months of each other. We spent countless hours drinking stale, burnt hospital coffee in waiting rooms, trading morbid jokes to keep from screaming, and watching the men we loved wither away. My husband miraculously entered remission. Ondine's husband, Gareth, did not. When Gareth passed, the silence in Ondine's house was deafening. It took her 2 years of grueling, suffocating grief before she finally agreed to let a friend set her up on a casual coffee date. She bought a new dress. She put on lipstick for the first time in 24 months. And what did Vernita do? Vernita stood at the edge of her driveway, watched Ondine get into this new man's car, and loudly scoffed. Over the next few weeks, Vernita spearheaded a silent, vicious campaign of ostracization. She excluded Ondine from the neighborhood block party, whispered loudly at the communal mailboxes about disrespecting the dead, and looked at my fiercely loyal, beautiful friend like she was something scraped off the bottom of a shoe. I watched the light dim in Ondine's eyes again, extinguished by the venom of a woman who had never experienced a day of real tragedy in her life. But Vernita's cruelty wasn't limited to the widows. Her masterpiece of malice was reserved for Kellen and Marisol, the couple living directly adjacent to her property line. Kellen and Marisol were drowning. They both worked high-pressure corporate jobs just to afford the medical bills and specialized therapies for their 7-year-old son, Tobin. Tobin was a sweet, deeply sensitive boy on the autism spectrum who possessed profound auditory sensitivities. Sudden loud noises or raised voices would send him into severe, inconsolable meltdowns. Because Kellen and Marisol were exhausted, terrified, and human, they argued. But to protect Tobin, they would step out the back door, walk to the absolute furthest corner of their property near the property line, and whisper their frustrations into the humid night air. They thought they were being responsible parents. They thought they were hidden by the darkness and the azalea bushes. They didn't account for Vernita's surveillance state. Vernita had recently installed a network of high-definition, night vision security cameras on the eaves of her house. One of those cameras was angled explicitly over the fence line, pointing directly into Kellen and Marisol's backyard. It wasn't just capturing video, it was capturing audio. Vernita sat in her living room, recording a struggling couple's most vulnerable, desperate moments. Then she brought the footage to the homeowners association. She claimed they were creating a hostile environment. She gossiped to the mail carrier, the delivery drivers, and anyone who would listen about their failing marriage. She humiliated them so profoundly, stripping away their dignity and privacy, that Kellen and Marisol finally broke. Last Tuesday, a wooden for sale sign was hammered into their front lawn. They were packing up their lives, uprooting Tobin, and fleeing their own home just to escape the relentless voyeuristic cruelty of the woman next door. The breaking point for me, the moment the music went from an idea to a weapon, happened yesterday afternoon. Ondine and I were walking our dogs past Kellen's house. Vernita was at the property line, watering her agonizingly perfect petunias. She didn't see us approach over the sound of the hose. We heard her talking on her phone, her voice dripping with an ugly, aristocratic sneer. "Well, the sign is up," Vernita said, adjusting her grip on the brass nozzle. "I just hope a black family doesn't buy it. We have enough property value issues with the way they left the yard." The air in my lungs turned to ice. Ondine stopped dead in her tracks, her knuckles turning white around the dog leash. Vernita turned, saw us standing 10 feet away, and didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She just pursed her lips, turned off the hose, and marched back into her pristine fortress. I went home that night, my hands shaking with a specific crystalline rage. I logged onto an online community forum to vent my frustrations, writing a furious post about the incident, calling out her bigotry, and asking for advice. Within seconds, my account was locked. An automated artificial intelligence moderation system flagged my post. I was hit with a 3-day ban. The algorithm, completely devoid of context, had determined that my description of her blatant racism and my angry, unfiltered language violated the community rules against harassing individuals. I stared at the screen, the irony burning like acid in my throat. We have built a society so obsessed with the illusion of politeness, so terrified of raw, unsanitized emotion, that the machines protect the oppressors. If we cannot talk about hate openly, if we must scrub our language of anger and sanitize our art to bypass automated filters, then we are entirely hopelessly lost. The Vernitas of the world win. They thrive in that sanitized, artificial silence. They use the rules of civility to mask their rotting, venomous cores, weaponizing HOA bylaws and neighborhood etiquette to destroy lives while demanding absolute respect. I decided right then that I would not be quiet. I would not be polite. I would not sanitize a damn thing. Which brings me back to the gravel road, the mailboxes, and the overwhelming bass of 2 live crew. Today I haven't just parked my car, I've brought reinforcements. Ondine is sitting on the tailgate of my SUV, wearing her favorite leather jacket and sipping iced tea from a thermos. The rear doors are thrown wide open. I have curated a playlist that spans the entirety of human frustration and unfiltered cultural expression. We transition from the chaotic industrial screech of ministry to the visceral, profane, unapologetic brilliance of 90s hip-hop. The lyrics are explicit, the bass is earth-shattering, it is loud, it is angry, and it is beautifully, dangerously unsanitized. Across the street, Vernita's front door violently swings open. She marches down her paved walkway, her face flushed a mottled, furious red. She stops at the edge of her grass, right where the public easement begins, refusing to step foot on the dusty gravel. "Turn that disgusting noise off," she shrieks, her voice barely piercing the wall of sound. I lean casually against my bumper, feigning terrible hearing. I cup a hand over my ear. "What's that, Vernita?" "I'm just appreciating some art and culture, exploring the historical significance of the Miami bass scene." "I am calling the police," she screams, pointing a trembling, manicured finger at my face. "You are harassing me. You are a menace. Call them," Ondine yells back from the tailgate, a wicked, brilliant smile stretching across her face. "Tell them all about how you're being harassed." Vernita pulls her phone from her cardigan pocket and dials. We don't move, we don't turn the volume down a single decibel. 10 minutes later, a white and blue cruiser rolls slowly down the gravel lane, the tires crunching loudly. The officer steps out, looking incredibly bored. Vernita immediately launches into a hysterical tirade, waving her arms, pointing at the speakers, demanding we be arrested for disturbing the peace and verbal assault. The officer listens, nods slowly, and walks over to me. I reach into my back pocket and pull out 2 folded pieces of paper. I hand them over. "Officer," I say, speaking clearly over the fading outro of the song, "this is a copy of the county noise ordinance, which clearly states that residential decibel limits do not apply until 10 o'clock at night. And this is a copy of the neighborhood bylaws, confirming that this gravel road is a communal easement. I am retrieving my mail. I am well within my legal rights to listen to my stereo at this volume at 2:30 in the afternoon." The officer glances at the papers, glances at my car, and then looks at Vernita. "Ma'am," the officer sighs, turning back to the furious woman on the lawn. "They aren't breaking any laws. Unless they're on your property, there's nothing I can do. Have a good afternoon." Vernita's mouth opens and closes like a suffocating fish. She looks at the retreating officer, she looks at Ondine's triumphant smile, and finally she looks at me. For the first time, the veneer of aristocratic superiority is entirely gone. She just looks old, bitter, and utterly powerless. She turns on her heel and retreats into her house, slamming the heavy oak door behind her. I reach into the car, skip to the next track, and let the music play. We cannot allow the fear of making a scene dictate how we live our lives. When we censor our outrage to appease the artificial algorithms of polite society, we surrender our neighborhoods, our communities, and our culture to the worst among us. The busybodies and the bigots rely on your silence. They bank on the fact that you will be too embarrassed, too polite, or too afraid of violating some arbitrary rule to stand up and scream back. Sometimes, the only way to fight the suffocating, toxic rot of hidden hatred is to drag it out into the harsh daylight and drown it out with something louder, uglier, and infinitely more real. Never let them sanitize your anger. Never let them mute your art, play the music, shake the windows. Let them know exactly who they are dealing with. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment with your favorite unapologetic, unsanitized song recommendation, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder to turn their own volume up. Stay loud, stay fierce, and never let the neighborhood tyrants win.